Hey, we've all heard the old wisdom, make your feet about shoulder width, especially on the longer clubs, but how accurate is this advice really? And wouldn't it change from golfer to golfer depending on their body type and their body build? Well, right after this, I want to show you a little different take on this stance issue, and also how to determine precisely, what is the widest stance you should ever go to. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Steve with HitItLonger.com. So all your golf career, you've been told that you should widen out on the longer clubs out to about shoulder width. However, there's a big issue with this, and that is that nothing you do with your balance and your interaction with the ground is really based on anything about your shoulder width. Instead, it's more based on your hip width, how wide your hips are. What's your hip structure, in other words? Do you have really narrow hips? Are you a slender person? Do you have wider hips? Well, that'll make a big difference on how wide your stance should be. Now, a lot of other YouTube instructors will teach what they call a power stance on a driver, is get the feet nice and wide, even a little bit outside the shoulder width, something like this. So I want to show you the pitfall of being too wide first and why it really might end up hampering your power. So check this out. If I keep my feet under me like this, under my hips about this wide, what's going to happen is, as I shift my weight over to the left and I keep my head kind of centered behind the ball, you're going to see that nice side tilt, just like that. Now, right about here, as I'm coming through the ball, you can see I don't need this leg anymore. This leg becomes essentially weightless. You see, I can just freely pick it up off the ground and set it back down. So it means that I have achieved a great 1 foot balance. I'm not on a 2 foot balance, but I teach a lot of people that try to shift over from the wider stance and they end up falling back onto a 2 foot balance. They watch their shot just like this. It's going to create a lot of potential issues for you if that's the case, anywhere from bad low point to hooking the ball, things like that. Now, as you get wider and wider, as some of those other YouTube instructors would tell you to do, what's going to happen instead, you're not going to shift your spine in a pendulum from the bottom like I'm showing you here, getting that nice side tilt that's going to help you get power and accuracy, but instead, the wider you go, now watch what happens when I try to get the side tilt. Okay, that's as far as I can go. But if I pick this leg up off the ground, I fall right back into it again. So I believe it's really going to limit you in how much weight you can transfer to the left, and therefore how much ground forces vertically you can smash your foot into the ground with, because you're never getting your weight, you're kind of stuck, you're never getting your weight completely off your right foot. You're trying as hard as you can, but what this is going to create, it's going to tend to not allow you to get this nice side tilt going. Instead, you're going to do the opposite. The wider your feet get away from your ideal, the more you're going to turn into the opposite pendulum, an upside down pendulum. So instead of the pendulum swinging this way, your head staying more in the center, and your weight shifting and your hip shifting more to the left, instead you're going to get the upside down. Watch, the only way, I can't create a lot of side tilt this way, but if I want to get to a 1 foot balance, now see what's happened is I've got a same thing going back. The only way I can make a really good weight shift is by tipping the upper spine in a pendulum back and forth like this, what would be called a Frankenstein walk. That's what Mike Austin used to call it, the Frankenstein walk. So instead of having energy here in your navel and really getting a good weight transfer and getting your weight behind those shots, instead you're going to have more energy in your earlobe, as you kind of lean into the shot, and your head will do more swaying. So watch those guys again. Go back and watch a video on someone who professes that a wide stance is good for power, and what you'll see is that they either don't get to a good left foot finish, weight all in the left foot, or I guarantee you that their head will move back and forth sideways, which makes hitting the ball almost like shooting a moving target. You'd like to keep your eyes more center. You'd like to keep your sternal slot, the center of the wheel, more in the center, and you can get a little bit easier, precise ball striking and power. Now, how would we determine what the ideal stance is for each individual? Well, it's not too hard. What we would do, you would start it with your normal. Let's say that you normally like to stand about this far apart on your driver. Well, I want you to move your hips like the guys on TV do. That's 5 to 7 inches towards the target and about 1 inch back away from the camera like this. Open up the torso. Now, if I can stand here and I can pick this foot off the ground without falling back. It was a very slow fall that time, but you notice, without leaning my head into it, I cannot sustain the 1 foot balance. I tip right back over again. And then the wider I go, the faster I'm gonna fall. So I'm gonna narrow it up again to about here. And what I'm trying to do is I narrow a little bit each time and do the same test again. Shift and turn through. Now I can stay right where I put my toe back down again. Look where I put my toe back down. See this? Now if I start to widen it, that's too wide. I tipped over that time. So you're trying for the stance width where you can get over to your left post, stand on your left leg, head still behind the ball in the center, and not lose your balance. So for me, it's right about there. That right there is about my max. Okay? And so I know, because I've measured this before, for me, it's about 14 inches at the heels. And since my toes are flared a little bit, it's about 18 inches apart at the toes. So a great tool that you can put in your bag would be just go to the dollar store and get yourself a plastic ruler. And that way you can put it between your heels. You can kind of check relatively how wide your feet are when you practice. And then you can practice your ideal stance. Let's see if I can set up and hit a ball in my ideal stance width, which is about here. For a hybrid, I might go a little bit wider for the driver to say, go from 13 inches out to maybe 14 inches. And let's just look at the balance at the end of the swing. Now you can see here I achieved a full left foot, 1 foot balance. Can pick my foot up, no problem, because it's become totally weightless, and I stand on one leg and balance at the end of the swing. That's how I know that I haven't overextended myself, gotten my stance wide, which can really be the root cause of a lot of problems for the average golfer out there. So, a good rule of thumb, if you first find your ideal widest stance that you can go, and of course that's for the driver, and then everything else narrows about a 1/2 inch per club all the way down to the wedge. You might even be 6 or 7 or 8 inches at the heels only for a wedge of some kind. And the other rule of thumb, that the wider you get, the less you can use the ground and shift your weight, and the more your head is going to have to go back and forth in order for you to get all the way over to a 1 foot balance. So a good swing is going from a 2 foot balance to a right foot balance over to a left foot balance, just kind of like you're dancing. And there you can stay in balance, and good balance will tend to create more power. All right, I'm going to go back and work on my ideal stance for a little bit longer, but thanks so much for watching. I'm Steve. Please go check out my website, hititlonger.com, where I've got featured a lot of really great products that are going to help you increase your distance and lower your scores. And as usual, I'll either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.